Big news! The new Sprint LTE Plus network is faster than Verizon and AT&T based on analysis of a recent study by Nielsen. And to celebrate, we're inviting you to join Sprint for the biggest offer in U.S. wireless history. Switch to Sprint and save 50% on most Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile rates. Yep, you heard that right. No gimmicks, no tricks. You have Verizon 6 gigs for $60, $30 with Sprint. And if you have 15 gigs for $100 from AT&T, $50 with Sprint. Even if you have T-Mobile's 10 gigs for $80, we'll give it to you for $40. And we won't force you to watch video in low def. Oh, and one more thing. We'll even pay your switching fees up to $650 per line so you can switch to the Sprint LTE Plus network today. Visit a Sprint store or sprint.com/save 50%.
Offer coverage not available everywhere for discounted phones. Excludes taxes, surcharges, roaming, and premium content. Subject to new line $36 activation fee. Credit valid 4 day plans may not be exact match. See website for eligible plans. Offer ends 1/7/16. Savings through 1/8/18. Exclusions and restrictions apply. Contract valid via reward card requires online registration.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Conscious Contact Radio. We are live on air. My name is Reymond Colson, and today I'm going to be hosting the show with Scott Mendoza. I am the founder and owner of Heart-Centered Healing, where we focus on healing from the heart, and then inside out, pretty much. So that's just one of the things I do. And thank you for joining us today again as we discuss our topic of balance and what balance is, and how to incorporate that and practice the best way to balance out different things in our life. And I'd like to turn it over and introduce Scott Mendoza.
Thank you so much, Reymond. I'd like to say I love all of you from the center of my being. To every molecule in my body loves each and every one of you. And, this idea of balance is perfect. It's a perfect time, I believe, in the now to discuss it. And really, my message, in a sense, that I bring to the show is this idea of spreading love and light in a balanced perspective. And I think this is a great time, a great opportunity to touch on this subject, because I like to consider myself a beacon of light and a beacon of hope, in a sense, kind of in a dark room, so that folks can see it, that aren't necessarily in, their true spirituality. They're just living their life, from the mindset that that's what they prefer, without any spirituality incorporated. And I'm here to show them that that's just as good as well. This idea of balance is perfect. So that's you, Ray.
Great. Thank you, Scott. So guys, that's going to be our topic of discussion for today, balance. And I'm just going to do kind of a brief little overview of what I think it is, and we'll kind of take things from there. So to me, balance is very important. It's and when we say balance, what we mean, in a roundabout way, is pretty much a condition in where different elements that you want to have equal proportions of. So we're talking about basically balancing out different aspects of your life, of your daily life. And there are so many areas in our daily lives. We wear many hats, being human beings, and we have to find balance in pretty much all areas. So, you got your finance, you have your work life, your family life, and even on a deeper level, you can say, you want to balance out your energy, you want to balance out all the different relationships, not just relationships with a significant other, but, your relationship to anything and everything that you're pretty much encountering in your life, in your daily life. I think balance is important. It's almost as if balance is part of included with letting life kind of flow through you. You have to have that balance to let it flow. I feel like if you have any resistance, you're going to offset that, and the resistance is what makes things not so balanced out. And to give you an example of that, it could be something as simple as just allowing whatever happens, whatever comes to you, to allow that to happen, allow that to be what it is, and don't resist it. I was watching a Paul Lowe video that Scott had recommended the other day, and he was talking about if you're sitting there meditating and you have the urge or the need to use the restroom, to not follow through with that is resistance. You kind of want to go with the flow and just let things happen as they should. Just you want to keep the balance and just kind of know that everything is happening for a reason. And that way you cannot kind of resist so much. And I know this is a broad topic, balance, but and like I said, I like to incorporate balance in with the flow of life. You just kind of have to let things go. Don't really put too much energy into one thing, because we're not just this one thing. We're so many different things. We're going to experience all these different things within our life. So, to put so much energy or so much focus and attention on the one thing, you're pretty much not balanced at that point. So,
absolutely.
So that's kind of just like an overview of what I kind of, in my heart or in my head, kind of thought balance meant for me and what it was. So, do you have anything to add to that?
Absolutely. And I will we'll take the hourglass, if you will, and flip back the sands of time 3,000 years ago.
Okay.
3,000 years ago, in a sense, was what kicked off and spurred this idea of, polarity. Because that's why we're unbalanced and ultimately anyway, is because there's been a polarity of this or that, up and down. You have to choose between something in order to create something else. And that's been such a driven idea, has been so conditioned into the populace for thousands and thousands of years, because, that was the staircase we were at the point. Now, this idea of balance, I would deem it as a positive thing. When we're out of balance, that's also positive, because when you get when one gets a reflection of, or just gets something happens in their life, and you can perceive somebody being unbalanced, that's just as much of a tool or an opportunity for the person observing to learn as much as the person experiencing it to learn.
Right.
It's a multi-tiered system. It's a double-edged sword in a sense. Like, this idea definitely cuts both ways. So, it's really, really important. Now, I had recently, listened to some new material, and the material was from a teacher called Cryon. And Cryon is certainly, he's a grand teacher. He has a lot of teachings, and he's but he's well known in the spiritual community. And he said, and this resonated with me perfect. He said, "Are you a receiver, or are you a transmitter, or are you both?" And at this day and age, in this day of awareness that we have today, at whatever time it is right now on Thursday, that idea in itself, a lot of folks, it hits me so emotional, because a lot of folks these days have this idea that they're a receiver. They're so empathetic from everything around them. They're absorbing. And, I mean, that's cool. That definitely, you can play a dog and pony show with your neighbor and show them, in a third dimensional plane or on this human level that you care for them. But life is so much more deeper than that. And if you allow them what they're doing, you inadvertently give them balance. You inadvertently give yourself balance. Because, like you said earlier, you touched on the idea of allowance. Like, to allow things to just happen, like the urge to urinate when you're meditating. Get up and go to the bathroom, because that's what life is all about. When you get that stimulated sensation, whatever it is, if you want to get a popsicle, I don't care what it is. If you want to, now, of course, the kicker or the caveat is have honorable discernment. Make sure you are aware and conscious, and you are present in the present moment, because, if you're not present in the present moment, you are essentially agreeing or choosing to live somebody else's life. If you're not being present in your own life, it certainly means that you're present in somebody else's. So therefore, you're living their beliefs, you're living their life, you're living their circumstances. And I guarantee it, after a while, a couple of years, 5, 10 years, 5 months, whatever time frame it takes, it'll dissolve, because it's not really who you are. So just allow things to happen, like you're saying.
Nice. That was well put. I want to touch on something you mentioned. So something that you and I have in common are, we kind of follow these quote unquote spiritual teachers like Cryon and Bashar, and there's a whole list of them out there, actually. So and if you and I have a lot of friends. Go ahead. Oh,
I'm sorry. If anybody would like to get any of that material, it was at cryon.com and at bashar.com. I'm sorry, bashar.org.
Right.
Excuse me.
Thank you. So you and I have a lot of friends that, and even our relatives now that are, kind of into these things and talking about the metaphysical community and even spirituality, however you want to, whatever angle you want to look at it from. From your perspective, Scott, what is the best way not to kind of allow yourself to get pulled in to these quote unquote teachers and be a follower. You don't, because you don't want to give away your power and completely follow these people. You still need to recognize that you, your individual, person, your consciousness, you are the power. So do you have any recommendations for people that, kind of are into these things and to, still keep the balance where that you're, like you said, you're the receiver and the transmitter at the same time?
Certainly. And a while ago, I have created a YouTube channel. And for those listeners, welcome. For those that are listening, I love you all. And you can go to my YouTube channel, which is Scott Mendoza on YouTube. And I got several videos within the channel. And one video I made, it was quite a while ago. It was based off surrender. And this idea of the teachers and whatever reflection you get in your life, I don't care if it's a commercial, I don't care if it's a preacher on an infomercial, I don't care what it is. Everything is you, period. So first of all, we have to wrap our head around the concept that everything we perceive is a fraction of us, is a fraction of what state of mind we're in, is a fraction of, a different portion of ourselves that we're revealing to ourselves. Now, now that we have that set in stone in the sense that life is just you're just a piece of a bigger whole. The idea is when you hear anything or anybody or any teacher anytime, it's really you talking to you. And the important thing to do is to surrender. And I don't mean giving your power over to that person that you're listening to. I don't mean give your whole heart over to something. Keep your peace of mind within you. A surrender is giving into more of yourself. You're giving into more of the things that already exist. Because as you raise your awareness and as you raise your
Oh, it looks like we lost Scott's call there. Let's see if we can get Scott back online. Let's see here. So again, you're listening to Conscious Contact Radio with Reymond Colson and Scott Mendoza. And it looks like we just got Scott back here on the line. Scott, you there?
Hello. Absolutely. Okay. Sorry about that. Apparently, Samsung Galaxy Note 4 doesn't like people to call you when you're talking to the radio. But that's okay.
No worries.
That's quite all right.
So if you want to pick up where you left off.
Absolutely. And like I said, the idea of surrender, you're really giving into more of yourself because everything is you. So essentially, you're just telling yourself mentally that you're okay with whatever comes along. Whatever comes into your field of view means that it's there for a reason. You surrender into the fact that it is there for a reason. You surrender into the fact that it's going to show you something. You surrender in the fact that it's going to grow, and it's like a beanstalk inside of you, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And really, I suppose one could say it's never growing. It's just being more revealed. I guess one could say that. But, that's a little deep into it, though. But the idea essentially is to really, whenever you hear anything, just think with your heart. Think it through. Listen to your heart as far as how does it make you feel? Does it make you feel nervous? Does it make you feel anxious? Does it make you feel happy, sad, angry? What does it make you feel? And then once you figure out what that feeling is after you felt into it, then you inadvertently choose from that. You don't immediately feel that urge of, anxiety and then just ruin everything. You need to have that quiet moment. You listen to your heart. It'll tell you, I promise, it'll tell anybody what they need to know.
So let's say on a practical level, you mentioned your YouTube videos. Are you saying that the way for you to balance out everything you learned is to reflect that right back out to reality?
I suppose the best way, the easiest, quickest way, first of all, the fastest way to enlightenment is to lighten up. And if you use that analogy, the fastest way to blend is to embrace. Just embrace it. Embrace it with arms wide open. And when you hug it and you hold it and you have it within your being, then you know what to do with it. Then immediately you can let go of it. Then immediately you can add more to it or put more money on it or, whatever the case is.
Right.
So essentially, just give into it. Just, fall in love with it. And it may not look like it at first, but, once you surrender to it, then you know for a fact that you didn't leave nothing behind, no stone unturned, and you can let it go on its way. You can let it be in the domain that it's supposed to be in, the area, the mindset, or whatever.
I feel like when we embrace and we allow things to happen like that, and there's no resistance at all. I feel like balance is almost something that just naturally happens. I feel like it's just a natural. Like I mentioned earlier, it's a flow almost. I feel like it's almost effortless to keep things balanced. You almost have to put up an effort to be unbalanced. And like you were saying, it's not that's a bad thing because it's going to reflect to you, to us as an individual, things, in our life that possibly we need to look at. You know what I mean? Just the reflection. So, for example, if I'm putting too much focus into let's say just being on the internet, for example. Okay, that's something that everyone can relate to. So, everyone, pretty much everyone has the internet, can get access to it. And if you put too much focus into that, I think so what happens? You start to get unbalanced in other areas of your life. You start not giving attention to your friends and your loved ones, and possibly, I guess that even includes yourself, because like you're saying,
Certainly.
Everything we perceive is really us. So you're even not including or balancing the energies within you for yourself by kind of I feel like in our Western society, it's almost just so easy for us to become unbalanced in this day and age where there's so many distractions for us out there, whether it be just the internet or the TV or just you can get caught up in so many things. And not that that's a bad thing. We're not saying it's wrong to, follow what you desire or anything like that. But you need to make sure that it is a desire, and it's not really you're not responding to something out of anxiety or out of fear, and you're responding out of love and allowance and able to embrace really whatever circumstance or conditions you're kind of in any given moment.
Absolutely. And, like you said, that, there's a lot of opportunity here in the Western world, and it's starting to show its face in the Eastern world. And I know for a fact that since us as a collective, the humanity of the collective humanity in itself has went through, I guess you could say, the prism of self-awareness. From 1980 till 2012 was really this prismatic forcing of self-awareness. Because before, really, 1980 or in the 70s, look back then, everything was flower child, free love, in the 60s, all that stuff. And all up to the 80s, boom, you started getting the self-awareness. And then you started having all these different people writing books on how to, learn the law of one. Then you had these channelers, people that were starting to channel different kinds of energies that was passed
right.
through their body and would give them information, and all these things started happening. And then it started leaking into the collective, because there was a small group of individuals in the world that were kind of like placeholders, that were kind of like watchers in a sense. And now that they've watched to the degree that they have, us as a collective are standing up, the light workers, the ones that are on the leading edge. We're not the masters, but we're the masters. It's kind of hard to explain, but let me thumb through it. The idea is essentially, you have, we'll say, like, the watchers were the seeders of the planet, the entities and the energies that essentially had created created this reality in a sense, or at least came to here and added to it. And now, since that had happened, there had been capsules and time capsules and different kinds of releasing of energies, like going across 2012 was crossing a threshold. It was going into a different part of the solar system that had a different energetical frequency that automatically took the consciousness of humanity and adjusted it. Almost like taking a tuning fork, hitting it, and bringing another tuning fork towards it that's silent and automatically starts resonating. That's what's happening. Right. And now that this is happening, this Legion of Light has sprung up since 2012, maybe even before that. But in my perception, the true Legion of Light has, for the public, or for the masses, if you will, is now on the march. And when you have a Legion of Light, it's always as above, so below. You have a legion of darkness. You have an army of darkness that is marching against the light as we speak. It has to. It's supposed to. That's what gives us so much power and clarity in the end. So when you see, all this negativity in the world, when you see Paris, when you see San Bernardino County in California, when you see different kinds of things happening,
right?
I want you to do this. I heard, and I'll refer back to Cryon one more time, because he said something that really kind of stuck in my craw, if you will, kind of stuck in my head. And that was, all these things that you see in the world, all these negativities, especially if you know in your heart that they're, it doesn't serve you in any positive light. You see it as a person with a wooden stick in their hand, shall I say, walking up to a beehive and taking that wooden stick and just smashing the beehive, like bang, bang, bang. And we know, as awakened ones, as the Legion of Light, to keep our distance, because we're not going to get stung by somebody else's beliefs. We're not going to sit there and support somebody else's madness, if you will, support somebody else's thoughts, theories, and beliefs out of misalignment. All that stuff, sure, hey, people have died within that stuff. I'm not saying that it didn't happen or it did happen. Well, what I'm saying is it's important to validate, identify what it is for exactly what it is, because by identifying it, you validate it. And by validating it, you get to move past it. Like I said, the best way to blend light and dark is to embrace it. Embrace it from the fact that it doesn't mean anything to you no more. It's already served its purpose. And start reflecting that to your friends, to the ones that are closest to you. Because right now, those are the people that's going to listen. It's not going to be the person that's in the middle of the grocery store that don't know you. There's so many barriers and misconceptions in the world that if you go talk to an individual, you may not touch them. But if there's an individual that you know that you've connected with on some kind of level, start there. Start small. Have compassionate action towards those individuals. Don't damn them for blowing up the building. Have compassionate action because their ancestors have got things to such a way that they have to experience this now. It's nobody's fault. It's not my fault. It's not their fault. It's not ISIS's fault. It's not nobody's fault. There are no problems. Just people that experience things they don't prefer because they don't know, because they're not aware, they're not present, they're not right here, right now.
Very nice. Yeah, I like how you ended with that, because basically, we want to look out in society and we see, I guess in my life, I see the good and the bad. I see it all. I don't see just negativity. I don't see just positivity. I see everything. I feel like I'm seeing everything. And I feel like it's it's not about anyone else. In my personal life, I'm speaking for me at the moment. I can't control anyone else. I can't control how anyone else is feeling. I can't, you know what I mean? I can't. It's almost like what is the saying? Know thyself. You know what I mean? And that really comes down to it. You need to know what's going on in your heart, what's going on in your head, because I feel like it's our head that kind of keeps us unbalanced, and it's maybe dropping back into our heart that kind of balances everything out. To know, like you were saying, that there are no problems. It just is what it is. I feel like life in general has this balancing mechanism to where it's never unbalanced. You know what I mean? I don't feel like it's ever
right. Life is about perception.
It's all about the way we're looking at it. All about the way I'm defining what I'm looking at. You know, and that goes into another one of our teachings, Scott, about everything being meaningless or not having a specific built-in meaning. And it's when you look at something, you're either consciously or unconsciously giving it the meaning and the definition and filtering that through your beliefs, and that's what you're perceiving. And if you look at something as a problem, then that's what you're actually vibrating at. That's your frequency at that time.
Right.
Not that you can't change it, because, you know, and going back to you know, there not being a problem, I believe it was Paul O that quoted Einstein again, saying, you know, if you can't perceive what you're not the vibration of. So if you perceive a problem, that means you really think there's a problem, and there is a problem within you.
Right. It's
but
almost
you're
like
not going to
standing
be
in front of a tree. Oh, absolutely. I'll give you a quick analogy. It's kind of like being in front of a tree trunk and not knowing there's a squirrel on top of the tree because you can't see him because you're staring directly at the tree trunk. Right.
So you need to rise above the fact that you even think there is a problem, and then basically that way you can balance everything out, taking that, you know, from that neutral perspective, you can balance things out and really just, you know, what happens from there? You really just kind of embrace what's going on, allow it to happen, and move on with your life, right?
Yep. You give it the space and the place that it was designed to have, because if not, it's going to try and steal it from you, and you don't want that to happen, because then you start tripping over your own feet and getting depressed and everything else, and you start feeling condensed and suppressed because you're not releasing it. You're not giving it away. You're holding on to it because. And the only reason why people do that is because they think it serves them in some way. And if they just take a quick second of examination and say, does this serve me? How could it serve me? Because most often people will always say, why? Why me? Why now? Why? And most often, instead of saying why, you should simply say why not. Because by attaching that why not at the end of it, you open up the door to the warehouse of information, and it could come a lot faster. You know, it will be, it's light speed. We're light workers. That's the way it works. You know, that's why when people, you know, in a trance-like state will get all this information, boom, directly at light speed, because that's what we're made of. That's what we are. That's how, in effect, on higher levels we communicate. But I mean, it's definitely I'll go back to the idea I was talking about earlier about the receiver and transmitter idea, because you know, the truth of it is there truly is no victims. Really, there's never any victims of anything. There's only willing participants, and that willingness to participate could be from, you know, unconscious. You know, they're in the environment because they haven't removed themselves simply. It could be that simple.
For the listeners, can you just go a little what you mean by there are no victims? Can you explain that a little more?
Absolutely, because in a sense, everything in life is done by choice. whether you choose or you don't make a choice and it's chosen for you. Either way, it's a choice. So by that analogy, that everything is a choice. Like you have a choice right now to go grab a glass of water. You have a choice right now to move to Chicago. There may be some belief systems and all kinds of other things that are in place that hamper that, but inadvertently, that's what gives credence also to the idea that everything's fundamentally neutral.
Right.
Because, when there's no victims, it means there's neutrality. And when there's neutrality, there's no, you have to choose to be that side. You have to choose to be the victim. And it may be done before you were born. It may be done on a soul level. And that's what I'd like to explain to people. There's been things that happen to each and every one of us, all the listeners, everybody on the planet, that you created some kind of soul contract in a certain particular degree to experience life in such of a way. And sometimes that's not necessarily just for you. It could be, you could be walking this planet just for another entity, another human to learn and experience, period. Because you mentioned earlier, there's nothing new under the sun.
Right.
Just the experience of it. Like, to experience the sun itself is what's going to be new. Because it's always now. It's always now. It's never in the past. It's always now. So the experience of the now is what it's all about. So, it's kind of like it can be a bit, like a round robin. It can kind of make your head spin a little bit. But the thing that which is the most important is just be love. Be the love in your neighbor's life. Be the idea in your kid's school. Be the love within your environment. Show people that there are other ways. Don't show people that they should and they have to do it that way. Just be an example. Because if you want to think to yourself that they have to do it this way, I would revert your attention to a particular extreme kind of Christianity. You've seen those individuals. Like you.
You there?
A planet.
Okay, I hear you.
Definitely.
You cut out for a secend, though.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries.
It's a little animated over here. It's a really good topic for me. But, what I would say is there's just as many ways to accomplish to be who you are as there are people on the planet. There's not just one way. There's not just one monotheistic kind of idea. Sure, that kind of got things going to where they are now. So we need to appreciate that. Don't devalue it. It had all kinds of great value to it, and it puts us to the step in the staircase now. So
yeah, you reminded me of something when you said that you kind of just want to allow people to be themselves, and you don't want to kind of push them in any direction, really. Everyone has their own free will. Everyone has their choice. It reminded me of, I was watching a clip and I saw a young woman step in front of Bashar, and she mentioned to him that her highest excitement was getting other people to always basically say yes to her, regardless of what it was, that whatever she wanted them to do at that moment. So that was her highest excitement, getting other people to always agree to do what she wanted to do. And, he basically explained that is your definition of excitement is pretty much incorrect. And that is not excitement at all, because you're forcing someone to, you're taking away their free will or their choice by, your highest excitement or your real true excitement would be allowing them to be who they are at any given moment, just like you want from them. You know what I mean? So you don't want to push people in one direction or another. Like we've been saying over and over, you just kind of want to allow things to happen. You want to embrace whatever circumstance or whatever person, whether it be friend or family or even a stranger, just kind of embrace what's going on in that moment and know that it's there for a purpose, whether it be for you, for the other person experiencing that with you in that moment, whatever you're co-creating together. Because like you were saying, there are no victims. So everyone plays this part. There's no one is kind of taken out at the wrong time. I don't think there are any accidents in my reality. Whatever happens is supposed to happen, whether it be
absolutely.
I know we still kind of view death as an unfortunate thing, even though we are starting to transcend that belief. Even if someone dies, I don't look at it as this wasn't supposed to happen, or creation made a mistake. Pretty much, I don't look at my reality in that way, and I think that kind of helps me balance things out, knowing that all the different teachings and kind of just applying it. I want to talk about something that really helps me kind of balance on a physical level, on a mental level. An example is, we've been kind of listening to these spiritual teachers, Cryon and Abraham Hicks and Bashar, and all these wonderful teachers to help us kind of realize that we are creating our own reality, help us understand the mechanism of physical reality and how it works, and all these different things. And something that really helped me start to balance out all of the information that I was receiving over the past few years is, for example, being on this show and talking about it, reaching out to people with similar, like-minded things and in the same vibration, like you, Scott, for example, and just having these discussions with people really helps me not even just balance out the energies, but it helps me start to apply it into my life, into my reality. So that's not just kind of sitting in this dream state. Oh, I hope this might happen. I feel like when we speak about these things and kind of talk about them, that is the balancing mechanism kind of working itself out and helping us, allowing this energy, this new energy, this information, these new perspectives, these new experiences that we are having to actually play out in our lives, and we are able to notice the different experience and the different perspective and the change in reality. It's so much different now than it was, 10, 15 years ago in my life anyway. I may have known this stuff on a subconscious level and kind of acted on it, but I wasn't experiencing it. I was still having my doubts. I'm not going to lie. I was still living in fear back then. And now that I have this wisdom and this remembrance and these teachers who are really, like we said earlier, really myself, just helping me remind myself of who I am and what's going on. It's all just like this beautiful orchestration. And that's why I said, I feel like there's just naturally, life is just a natural balance. And there are these ups and downs, this roller coaster, this experience that we go through, but that's part of life. That's why we're here. And that's exactly what is supposed to be going on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
I've gotten an idea or an analogy popped in my mind when you start talking about, you listen to all of the material, and for the listeners out there as well, you listen to this video, you listen to that video, this person talks, that person talks, and you get all this stuff into your head, and it kind of just bounces around there like marbles inside of a glass jar or inside of a jar itself.
Right.
And
Right.
the only way to get that to kind of make some sense or to get some kind of, coherence out of it, because you can be incoherent on it, like, oh, blah, 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 and it can make you so, like, topsy-turvy, to give
right.
a word. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like if anybody out there understands auto mechanics, it's like having a car battery. Taking the car battery and it's dead. It's us when we were born, completely dead. And as we grow older, as we get more aware and we get more wisdom, as you say, or we have this remembrance, the battery starts to charge, starts getting more of a charge, more of a charge, more of a charge, and the human body is an antenna. It's 70% water, so it's a massive conductor. And in a sense, if you get overcharged, that you could fry the electrical of the entire vehicle. You could fry your brain, your mentality. You'll get so just, up in arms. You'll be so just distracted if you don't express it. Like you said, getting on a platform, talking about it, writing it down in a journal, talking to a friend, talking to yourself in the middle of the woods, talk to yourself on your couch. Whatever the idea is write it down. And once you physicalize it, you diffuse it. And that becomes like the ground. You ground the energy into life instead of it just being a thought. You actually get it out of your system. You use your DNA structure, your entire body, to vocalize or to write it down or draw a picture, whatever excites you to do to express it, do it.
Right.
Because what's going to happen is it's going to start balancing that battery of who you are, and it's going to allow you to incorporate more, because it can get to a point to where your spiritual cup, your knowledge of spirituality and life and everything, evolution, it gets filled to the rim. And when it gets filled to the top, in your adulthood or whenever you have your awareness, you cannot put anything else in it. It spills all over the floor. It goes all over the carpet, and you're like, oh man, I made a mess. But what really you should have done is looked at that cup, examined it, smelled it, put your finger in it, drink it a little bit, taste it, figure out what it is, and then identify it, validate it. Okay, it's water. I can drink it. Boop, down the hatch. And then here comes some more knowledge. I've listened to this video, okay? I computed that. I've gotten that, kind of locked in the brain in a sense. And even if you don't remember it, because there was times that I came across information at such of a pace that I wouldn't remember anything. And it wasn't until months later that I actually expressed certain ideas and started making YouTube videos and started writing in journals and drawing pictures and stuff years ago. That's when it started making some sense to me. I was able to take the pieces and start remembering who I was, take the portions and pieces and reorganizing them in a manner that I can comprehend. And each one of us is a snowflake. So it's important for, once it gets to a discombobulated state, you get to even if you're in a beginning, doesn't matter what stage you're at, it's important.
Nice.
That's definitely what I would say about that.
Very nice. Yeah, that actually reminds me of something I have applied in my personal life where, I'd say at some point after 2012 and the combination of me going through some difficult times and then also coming out of that into a reality that I preferred. And basically just, so what I'm talking about is once I had this quote unquote spiritual awakening, I started remembering who we actually are and what's going on. Reiki energy healing somehow came into my life. I had no clue what it was, and yet there I was sitting in this studio getting attuned to Reiki energy healing, and it happened so quick. Me and my wife went through the attunement, and I feel like I was already attuned, and I was still learning what Reiki is, and I'm still learning more about it today, of course. But this was many years ago when I was just getting into it, and I didn't know what had came over me, but I just felt like this was something I had to do, and it all of a sudden I was sitting in this Reiki studio, and I felt like, okay, well, I'm doing Reiki maybe once a month at these get-togethers, and I feel like it's not enough for me. It's really this feeling I had, and I started to reach out. So I just got on the internet and I typed in kind of Reiki, energy, Reiki practice, and I found out that I could do the Reiki in a hospital. So I allowed myself to take on all this energy and this information, and then I was also giving right back into my community. I felt like I didn't want to hold this all to myself and just, not that someone can't do that, but I felt such an urge to kind of give right back. And
awesome.
I feel like by doing that, I was balancing myself out the same way as if we were getting the energy and information from the teachers and then speaking it right back out, onto this radio show, or just me and you having a conversation on the phone. I feel like I was naturally kind of balancing out these energies that I didn't want to just take in all this energy and kind of hold it to myself. And not that I looked at it from that perspective as something selfish. I just felt really this desire and this urge to share everything, and I wanted to uplift others and remind others that how powerful we all are, and really we're these eternal beings. So
absolutely. So Ray, you would say in the regards that to help or to a technique to blend or to balance the negative and positive within you, you would say to have some kind of action upon the things that you've learned? Is that what you would say?
Yeah, definitely to help blend and balance the exchange of energy, from no matter really no matter what relationship I feel like that is. I feel like at times if I have too much of something, I need to either share it, or it doesn't even have to be a share of something. It can be just a discussion with my wife maybe about the information. I feel like we kind of we have this sense of feeling within us that when we take on so much or so much of an energy or so much information, I feel like we can feel that within our being. And I feel like when that happens to me, I have an urge to either pick up the phone and call Scott, or pick up the phone and talk to my wife about whatever it is that may be occurring, whatever it is that I'm going through in that moment, whether that be, having a great opportunity, that's come to me in life, or whether that be something I'm really excited about that I just, something just clicked in my head, a light bulb just came on about some information I was just given, and I want to share that with someone. But I feel like that is my natural way of kind of balancing out and blending all these different energies. So, so that, that would definitely be one of my tools to just kind of act on, these desires and these feelings and these feelings of inspirations that we get. Don't just hold on to it. Don't just, let it dissipate or anything like that, because that's I feel like that's what will get you unbalanced, and that'll start maybe getting you into some beliefs of lack if you're not really acting on these things. So I encourage people to be yourself, be who you are, and just act on these things, whatever it is,
even if it is acting and sitting down. Yeah.
Right. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be anything specific. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant. You don't have to go, conquer this mountain or anything like that. Just, it can be sitting down to meditate. It can be anything. It can be drawing. It could be, like I said, it could be picking up the phone and talking to a friend or a relative.
Right.
Just do something so that you can balance yourself out, balance the energies that are going on within you, and balance all that out, regardless of what it is. Just find something to act on.
Certainly. And I will. I think we got about 5 minutes left or so. I would. I had touched base on the idea of all this negativity and stuff in the world, and I feel it deep in my heart to express to all the listeners, and thank you to all the listeners that are listening right now and will listen in the future. My love to all of you. And what I would say is thank the hand of all this negativity in the world. Look at it from the perspective, that you have grown. Look at it from the perspective that that's not you. You know for a fact when you look at those situations all over the world, and there are going to be several more. It's going to ramp up drastically, I promise you. But the idea is to look at that as a reflection of who you're not. Don't play to the drum or to the beat that that's who you're supposed to be. Look at it like, man, I was at that point at some point in time, but I certainly don't feel that way now. And what's going to happen is we're going to start banding together. We are banding together. It's happening. It's already happened. The end has came and went. We are in the beginning of the new. Like for those that think that there's going to be some kind of Armageddon or some kind of drastic, massive upheaval, you're sadly mistaken. That it's going to be in this reality. Now, it exists in other places because all exists now. But the fact of the matter is when you see that kind of thing in life, in the world, on the news, on wherever, I want you to do a couple of things. A, look at it as a reflection of what you're not. B, if it's truly what you're not, turn it off. Do something that's going to be much more positive and uplifting for the world. Do something that you're paying your attention that is positive and uplifting. Don't pay your attention to things that aren't, in a sense, in your direction, in your vibration, not within you. I mean, we contain all, certainly, but at this point in time, we're expanding to such of a loving and massive level that just love yourselves, love your neighbors. This is not a race war. This is not a country war. There's not a war. This is an opportunity to see all the struggle in the world and put some compassionate intention there. Yeah, you may be in Salt Lake City, but it's happened in Sierra Leone, Africa or whatever. I understand that, but distance don't mean squat. Like I said, we're made of light. We travel at light speed, so think of it on the light basis. Love, just feel the love and think of that place and trust me, they'll feel it. And as I always would say, you have to go with your heart, think with your heart, live through your heart. It is your guiding light.
Yes. Yes, so, and to wrap that up, what Scott was saying, basically we're all connected. There is no separation here. Separation is the illusion that we've been living in, and separation is the old paradigm that we are breaking out of. So, put your attention on what you desire, what you love, follow your heart, and everything will work out. And everything is working out as it should. And like he's saying, like Scott mentioned, thank the darkness or the negativity for what it is, because it is showing us who we are not. It is showing us where we need to change, and it is going to allow us to make those changes here in our future so that we can become and be the society and the world that we all know we are. And we're going to end with that. And this is Conscious Contact Radio with Scott Mendoza and Reymond Colson. You can reach us at consciouscontact88@gmail.com. Scott Mendoza at youtube.com and heartcenteredhealings.com for me. So thank you all very much. Thank you for the co-creation, our unconditional love, and you have a great, beautiful day.
Love you.
You share the couch. You share the remote. And if you've got a family plan with those other guys, you're probably sharing your data. But at T-Mobile, you don't have to. Now your family can get 4 lines with up to 10 gigs of 4G LTE data per line. You heard right. 4 lines, 10 gigs per line. Stream, post, and download on the network that has doubled LTE coverage over the last year and added extended range LTE with a signal that goes twice as far and is 4 times better in buildings. Plus, right now, T-Mobile will even pay your family switching fees, up to $650 or more per line when you trade in your smartphones. It's the best value for families. So get 10 gigs for all today, only from T-Mobile.
Switching cost paid with trading credit and Visa prepaid card. Device purchase and qualifying service required. Card issued by MetaBank. Member FDIC. Card expires. Coverage not available in some areas. See T-Mobile.